Happy open practice day from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It is Thursday. It is a viewing period. It is Ohio State training camp practice number 7. And the Podcast Daily is ready with some thoughts on a Thursday about what we want to see. It's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Bill, which offensive line spot will you be looking at first?
I'll be looking at all of them, but I'm most interested in the most obvious, which is Will Howard. And they've had 2 practices.
He's playing offensive line?
He's playing left tackle.
Oh, boy.
Right tackle, sorry. No, left guard. Right guard. He's playing them all. We watched 4, then they had 2 without us here. So, I think there was a noticeable build over 4 days with Will Howard. We don't know whether or not that build continued or not. He looked pretty jovial out here on the practice field, so it didn't look like a guy who was upset with his performances when we talked to him. But on Tuesday when we talked to him, and on a Wednesday when he was coming off the field, looked like a pretty happy guy. So that to me suggested the practices were at least okay. But I want to see that next step again from Will Howard on Thursday. That's consistency with the short to intermediate stuff that we've seen. I would like to see maybe some downfield passing stuff to see if anything has improved there. Mm-hmm. I don't exactly know what kind of practice we're going to see. Wednesday's practice, it sounds like, was pretty physical. It was long. I would imagine that Thursdays will not be either of those.
You take it back a little bit.
but even then, there'll still be, I'd imagine, team periods and 7-on-7 and opportunities to watch the quarterbacks throw. So I want to see Will continue to stack those days.
Are you having fun out there, Will?
What's your message?
Berm, what are you going to be watching?
I'm really more and more interested in this discussion around Gabe Powers and what exactly, how close he is to being ready to be the middle linebacker for this team if he needed to be. I thought on Wednesday when you see James Laurinaitis talking about versatility and moving all the other guys around, Gabe is not a guy that gets talked about as moved around. He said Cody can play other spots. So I'm wondering if, is there a world where those two are on the field at the same time? And James didn't scoff at the idea of any specific mix. Yeah. But I want to see if Gabe Powers is that guy, because we've talked about just the shift in athleticism in the linebacker group, and it's not a knock on Gabe that he's not as athletic as Cody or Sonny or CJ or Arvell, but he is different than those guys. He is probably more of your traditional, stationary Mike linebacker, and I want to see if that fits what this defense is going to be. So hopefully we get some real team periods where we can see that.
So just one day ago on the Stonk Watch, I was investing in Gabe Powers, but a day later, I'm more intrigued by the idea of Arvell Reese than I have maybe ever been, especially because he was brought up. Arvell talked about it. James Laurinaitis talked about it. Everybody was mentioning him in that Mike role, and he said, "Well, this is Arvell brought up a great point. Which you got to think about the physical development here." And last year at this time, they were making him play. Not making him play. He was playing on the edge. He didn't. It's that was fine, it was fun, but that wasn't really, I think, where he felt most comfortable. And then my expectation was, with that freaky athleticism, he's got to be ranging around at will. But everyone is talking about him in that role. So to you're watching Gabe Powers, the same thing goes for Arvell Reese. I do feel like there is a world now where those two are competing for the same amount of snaps behind Cody Simon. And I'm curious how that's going to play out, because the athletic profile of those two guys, I don't think is very similar.
No.
So how does the formula work there?
I like the idea of 6'4", 240-pound middle linebackers. I am for that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's an idea I can get behind.
Yeah. And you also mentioned on Snap Judgments on Wednesday, it's he's just a big freaky dude that needs to be on the field. And I think that may be the spot behind Cody Simon where the opportunity to do that is more available to Arvell Reese than it may be with CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles doing will and nickel things.
I like that every conversation we have about the defense eventually evolves into, can they play 17 guys at the same time? The answer is no. They cannot. No, there's more intrigue.
Derek Dooley once tried to play with 13 at Tennessee. It did not. Well, the defense was effective, but the play didn't count.
Yeah, it was a nice try.
There's more. Know if people are paying attention.
That is true.
They had to review it. It was worth a shot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. There's definite intrigue there. More in the depth than I guess I would have anticipated, especially when you throw Peyton Pierce into that mix now, apparently, too. So I think all that can do at the moment is just get you really excited about how good that position can be this year and how good it can be next year. It's trying to suss out, like, who might play the more number 2 Mike linebacker reps. I think might drive you a little bit crazy, but it is interesting.
I asked Sonny Styles on Wednesday if there's any plan or if there's still any arguing amongst the coaches about putting him at, like, defensive end. And he said, we're still working through some things. And he didn't seem to be sarcastic about it, or it seemed
Don't get my hopes up, man.
So I was just like, is there a spot for you, like, on the edge of the... And he's like, well, there's still things we're working on. So...
He also said it's great to be able to do some of the nickel things at the same time. It's like, Sonny, please stop dropping all these clues while also making it more confusing than ever to figure out how this defense is going to line up.
I've seen Jordan Hancock in the building, so I know he's still here.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how all this plays out, but
I like that the word that was thrown around most with Sonny was streamlined, and like nothing about his career has been streamlined.
It's as complicated as it gets. The only thing they've streamlined is like allowing him to go to the training table and eat whatever he wants.
I asked him, I'm like, how much happier are you that you get to just eat that extra sandwich if you want? And he said he's only gained 10 pounds. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I think he secretly played.
But
like
I also don't
230
agree
last year.
because I then saw him on Wednesday walking off the field, and I was like, you look happier. And he said, I am happier.
Well, Sam, what you do that to him, man?
Yeah, that's what the sandwich is for. Berm, what else are we going to be looking at?
I am going to be watching Brandon Inniss closely. I want to see what happens after that top 3 wide receivers. And I know it's expected that it will be Brandon Inniss because of his versatility, because of the shiftiness, because he can play in and out of the backfield, he can play in the slot, he can do... I want to see... We haven't really seen him cut loose, like go full speed ahead after the foot injury he had in the spring. Like, he needs to be that guy. And I'm interested to see if there's a role for him in the return game. I kind of got him circled as I'm going to watch what he does most of the day on Thursday.
That's a good one.
The return game stuff's interesting because it feels like from what we've seen, they just kind of, if you're a receiver who's not on one of the like gunner spots, they just kind of just put you back there, a punt returner. But I don't think that's actually an accurate picture of who could be the team's punt returner. So maybe if we can get a little more clarity on that, that'd be good.
I'm sure they'll have a lot of punt periods on Thursday. So
absolutely. You can't have an open,
down and not do that.
You can't have an open practice without that. It feels a little bit different than other years, Bill, because I don't remember seeing like 7 guys at a time going back there to take punts. Normally you'd have like 4 and you could get a pretty clear picture of who that was going to be. I still think that this is like Emeka Egbuka is going to be this team's punt returner. I feel like that's almost inevitable. I don't really know about kickoff return. And we probably...
Didn't they bring in a return specialist in Sean Lodge for this purpose?
Yeah.
But
I don't think he's...
Is he a more... Yeah, I have not seen him there.
Do we think that the punt return assembly that's happening is just a byproduct of Brian Hartline being the guy who's the return coach now and him being a receiver who used to return punts, that he just said everyone needs to get back there and learn how to do it just in case? Or
yeah, I think it's good to practice it. Like Jeremiah Smith's over there. I think Jeremiah Smith's going to return punts, right? But I think it's good for him to practice doing so in case they get to their 7th option.
The only, unless I'm mistaken from what I remember last week, the only non-receiver who took any of those reps was Caleb Downs.
I believe they were all red jerseys except for Caleb Downs. Yeah.
So that means Berm's BP is still in play, that he could be this team's punt returner.
Yeah.
All right, so Berm is now watching Brandon Inniss.
He's going to return a punt for touchdown this year. Caleb Downs is. He may not be the normal punt returner, but he's going to return one for touchdown.
Okay. He's squeezing another.
You got to win the Heisman somehow.
He's not going to have any BPs left.
You got to win the Heisman somehow, and he needs to have a touchdown in special teams or on offense. And so,
yeah, he's definitely going to have one on offense.
Carlos Lockwood did not seem to think that was happening.
He didn't really co-sign that, but he also said that's not his decision.
No.
Bill, what else will we be watching?
Offensive line.
Oh, okay.
There's been a lot of conversation about quarterback timeline and paring down those reps and when that'll happen. I'm now wondering the same about the interior of the offensive line based off the shuffling we saw over the weekend when Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, and Seth McLaughlin were all with the first team offensive line. And if that is continuing, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's good to like get all those guys experience, and positional flexibility and all that is valuable. But if we're at the time or getting close to the time where you really want to focus in on where those guys will actually be playing in the fall and figuring out who's going to start at right guard, I will be on alert for any of that sort of being curtailed in any way, and what the delineation of reps are to Tegra Shabola and Carson Hinsman specifically at right guard. I think it's okay. I am okay with that battle carrying on longer than naming a starting quarterback. I think that's probably fine. If it's like the 4th week of August and we don't know, maybe that's a problem. But I think at this point in camp, it's fine if they're still figuring it out. But I will be looking to see if maybe they're starting to figure some stuff out already.
I want to see if Luke Montgomery takes more snaps at center.
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious about his potential there as a long-term play for him. But I don't know how happy that would make Josh Padilla. So
it's another one of those problems that Ohio State seems to have. It's a luxury problem. They have too many good players. Mm-hmm. Makes it hard to get on the field.
You know, it's weird though. I mean, we saw on Tuesday night, like LSU's backup tight end announced he was going into the transfer portal. Like, this is a weird world, man. This is a weird world. Like, the fact that all these guys are here and nobody's being like, all right, screw this, I'm out. Like,
they had somebody leave during camp last year. Didn't offensive lineman leave during camp last year? Kid from Mentor?
Jacoby. Ryan Jacoby.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Like, there's a really good vibe around this program. And, like, you think, oh, the transfer portal's not open. It's never open, right? But people still go into it
it's always there.
It's all
somehow.
You can always go check the door.
7-Eleven. It's always open.
But, hey, man, too many good players is only a problem if they leave.
You said at some point, Berm, I don't remember when, you thought maybe by the end of the week that Ohio State could resolve the quarterback battle. Do you think with BTN in town, with Ryan Day getting some television love and talking to us on later today at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, what are the % chances you think that could happen on Thursday?
This is the day that I had the camp bold prediction. I said that it would be announced by today.
Okay, so you are at 100%.
But I think I'm going to be wrong, and I think it will. I think it will wait until probably after Saturday, because I would expect
next Thursday we talk to them again.
I would expect that they'll have a full scrimmage sometime this weekend, and I would be expecting heading into third week of camp that's when we'll see an announcement. Maybe we won't see an announcement, but I think that's when it will happen out here. We probably won't get an official announcement from Day until next Thursday.
I remember in 2021. It was CJ Stroud has separated, and then like a week later, it was CJ Stroud's the starter. I think we could be in store for that.
A separation.
Separation. Yeah.
Separation of powers.
A prompt and then an unprompt. An unprompted prompt.
That's a callback.
That's a callback from yesterday's
Snappy Jays. So if you missed those, go back and watch them. I don't know. Is there anything else going on? I think we mentioned some of the ongoing nickel conversation, and Jim Knowles hit a weird, sounding the alarm button about the depth there, which I don't fully understand. But if we do see more team stuff, because that Jermaine Matthews, we've seen Lorenzo Styles doing a lot of work on the side. I think more likely than not, that's where Ohio State would like him to play, is in that nickel role.
Yeah.
I think that's an intriguing spot that could be watched. Again, there's no uncertainty about the starter. Jordan Hancock is there, and he should be playing every available rep that he's able to withstand.
But it feels like that's the position that's going to be pared down as this defense figures itself out a little bit. Like, we keep every conversation about the defense seems to be like, well, we're going to have more linebackers out there. We're going to have more defensive linemen out there. Like, that's constantly the spot that.
Yeah. I think that'll be opponent, against Iowa. Maybe Jordan Hancock doesn't play 60 snaps. Well, Iowa's not going to run 60 plays, but maybe Jordan Hancock doesn't play 25 snaps against Iowa.
Lower.
Yeah, lower.
How does that feel?
But that is the spot that seems most impacted by some of the positional versatility. What was I going to say? Oh, if we can live in a fantasy world for a moment and hope that this is a real practice, I would love to see some inside run on Thursday. And obviously that's a lot of offensive line and running back, but I think it has been somewhat difficult to get a great read on defensive tackle because we've not seen a fully padded full contact practice a lot of it is happening away from us.
Yeah.
So if there's a chance to get some eyeballs on that, I would like to see how that position's coming along.
And there's so much hype on Caden McDonald and Jason Moore, and I want to see it against the offensive line.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, do you know who else is really excited about doing some inside run? It's Caden McDonald.
Okay. Well, he could do it on either side. That's the beauty of Caden McDonald. He could be the
Wow.
fullback.
I didn't even think of that.
But I do think that it's just we've talked a lot about those guys. We've talked a lot about what we think is going to be an improved offensive line. I would just like to see some heads hitting each other.
Big meaty men slapping meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit of that.
A little bit of that.
Yeah.
All right. That'll be Thursday Morning Raw coming your way. We'll be breaking that down after practice. Thanks for joining us right here on the Podcast Daily to start Thursday and get ready for another Ohio State camp session in the Woody. That's Bill and Berm. I'm Austin. We'll talk to you later.